Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein's rise, rule, wars, and the collapse of a regime. Introduction. The making of a modern Middle Eastern strongman. Saddam Hussein remains one of the most consequential and controversial figures in modern Middle Eastern history. For more than 3 decades, he dominated Iraq's political system, shaping the country's internal structure, foreign policy, and regional influence. His rule embodied the dynamics of authoritarian power in the 20th century: stabilized authority, ideological nationalism, security-driven governance, and the use of both economic development and coercive violence to maintain control. Saddam's political career illustrates how revolutionary movements can evolve into personalist regimes, how oil wealth can strengthen state authority, how geopolitical ambitions can ultimately destroy a system built on concentrated power. During the 1970s, Iraq experienced rapid modernization under Saddam's influence, funded by expanding oil revenues. Yet the same leadership that presided over economic growth also initiated devastating wars and internal repression. His decisions triggered the Iran-Iraq War, the Gulf War, and eventually the 2003 invasion of Iraq. These events reshaped the Middle East and left Iran politically fragmented long with his fall. Understanding Saddam Hussein requires examining multiple dimensions: his early life, ideological influences, consolidation of power, military campaigns, economic policies, and the international pressure that ultimately ended his rule. Chapter 2: Early Life and Social Environment. Childhood in Rural Iraq. Saddam Hussein was born on April 28, 1937, in the village of Al Aujha near Tigris in northern Iraq. This region was rural, economically underdeveloped, and strongly influenced by tribal structures. Iraqi society during this period was marked by sharp inequalities between urban elites and rural populations. Tribal loyalty, kinship ties, and honor codes played a central role in shaping social behavior. Saddam's childhood was marked by instability. His father died before his birth. His early years were reportedly dominated by a harsh and abusive stepfather. This condition exposed him to violence and insecurity at a young age. Many historians argue that these experiences contributed to his later emphasis on control, loyalty, and distrust of rivals. Influence of tribal networks. The Tigriti tribal network later became central to Saddam's political system. Throughout his rule, individuals from his hometown and extended clan filled key positions within Iraq's intelligence services, military commands, and government ministries. This reliance on kinship networks created a loyal inner circuit but also reinforced the personalized nature of his regime. Chapter 3: Entry into Revolutionary Politics. Rise of Arab Nationalism. During the mid-20th century, the Middle East was undergoing profound political change. Colonial influence was declining, monarchies were collapsing, and nationalist movements were rising. Among the most influential ideological currents was Baathism, which promoted Arab unity, secular governance, and resistance to foreign domination. Saddam joined the Baath Party in the late 1950s, still a young political activist. The Baath movement appealed to many young Arabs who viewed Western influence and conservative monarchies as obstacles to national independence and modernization. 1959 assassination attempt. In 1959, Saddam participated in an attempted assassination of Iraqi leader Abdul Karim Qasim, who had come to power after overthrowing the Iraqi monarchy. The attempt failed and Saddam fled Iraq, eventually taking refuge in Egypt. During his exile in Cairo, he continued his political education and maintained connections with Ba'athist activists. The experience also strengthened his reputation within the party as a committed revolutionary. Chapter 4: The Ba'athist Seizure of Power. In 1968, the revolution had taken place. The Ba'ath Party returned to power in Iraq through the 17th July Revolution, which established a new government dominated by Ba'athist leaders. The presidency was held by Ahmad Hassan al-Bakr, but Saddam quickly emerged as one of the most influential figures behind the scene. Although not yet president, Saddam held the position of vice president and controlled many internal security functions. He played a crucial role in organizing intelligence networks, suppressing opposition movements, and consolidating the party's authority. Building the security state. Saddam's early strategy focused on extensive security apparatus. Several intelligence agencies were established to monitor political opponents, military officers, and even members of the ruling party. By fragmenting the security services and encouraging competition among them, Saddam ensured that no single organization could challenge his authority. These agencies reported directly to him, creating a system in which loyalty to Saddam Hussein personally became most important than loyalty to institutions. Chapter 5: Economic Transformation and Oil Wealth. Nationalization of oil. In 1972, the Iraqi government nationalized the Iraq Petroleum Company. This decision dramatically increased the government's control over Iraq's energy resources. The timing coincided with the global oil prices boom of the 1970s. As oil prices rose sharply following the 1973 oil crisis, Iraq's revenue expanded rapidly. The government used this income to fund infrastructure projects, industrial development, and social programs. Modernization policies. Throughout the 1970s, Iraq experienced significant economic growth. Investments were made in education, healthcare, and industrial expansion. Literacy campaigns reduced illiteracy rates, and the government established universities and technical institutes across the country. During this period, Iraq became one of the most developed states in the Arab world in terms of infrastructure and social services. Oil revenue allowed the government to maintain a strong welfare state while also expanding military capacities. Chapter 6: Saddam Hussein becomes president. Transition to power in 1979. In 1979, President Ahmed Hassan al-Bakr resigned, officially transferring power to Saddam Hussein. The transition marked the beginning of Saddam's direct rule over Iraq. Shortly after becoming president, Saddam convened a dramatic Ba'ath Party meeting in which he accused several members of plotting against the government. Numerous officials were arrested and later executed. The purge eliminated potential rivals and reinforced Saddam's authority within the party. Cult of leadership. Saddam's regime gradually developed a personality cult. Portraits, statues, propaganda campaigns portrayed him as a national hero, military leader, and defender of Arab dignity. State-controlled media promoted narratives linking Saddam to historical figures such as Saladin and Nebuchadnezzar. The symbolic imagery aimed to reinforce legitimacy and unify the population under a strong national leader. Chapter 7: The Iran-Iraq War. Origins of the conflict. The Iranian Revolution dramatically altered regional politics. Iran's new leadership promoted revolutionary ideology that threatened neighboring governments. Iraq, which had a large Shiite population but was ruled by Sunni-dominated political elite, viewed this revolution as a potential destabilizing force. Territorial disputes over the Shatt al-Arab waterway further intensified tensions. In 1980, Saddam Hussein ordered Iraqi forces to invade Iran, beginning the Iran-Iraq War. Course of the war. The conflict quickly escalated into one of the longest conventional wars of the 20th century. Both sides mobilized large armies and used trench warfare reminiscent of World War I. Chemical weapons were deployed during the conflict, and both countries suffered heavy casualties. By the time the war ended in 1988, hundreds of thousands of soldiers and civilians had died. Neither side had achieved a decisive victory, and the border largely returned to its pre-war status. Chapter 8: Internal Repression and the Kurdish Conflict. The Anfal Campaign. During the later stages of the Iran-Iraq War, Iraqi forces launched the Anfal Campaign in northern Iraq. The campaign aimed to suppress Kurdish insurgent groups that were perceived as collaborating with Iran. Thousands of villages were destroyed, large number of civilians were displaced or killed. The campaign remains one of the most controversial aspects of Saddam's rule. The Halabja chemical attack. One of the most widely documented events of this period was the Halabja chemical attack, during which chemical agents were used against the Kurdish town of Halabja. The attack caused widespread civilian casualties and drew international condemnation. Chapter 9: The Invasion of Kuwait. Economic pressures after the Iran War. Following the Iran-Iraq War, Iraq faced enormous financial burden. The government had accumulated large debts, particularly to Gulf states that had supported Iraq during the conflict. At the same time, falling oil prices reduced Iraq's revenue. Saddam accused Kuwait of overproducing oil and driving down prices, which he argued harmed Iraq's economy. The 1990 invasion. In August 1990, Iraqi forces invaded Kuwait, initiating the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait. Saddam claimed that Kuwait historically belonged to Iraq, accused it of economic aggression. The invasion triggered an international crisis, led to the formation of a multinational coalition. Chapter 10: The Gulf War and International Sanctions. Coalition Response. A US-led coalition launched military operation against Iraq in early 1991. The conflict, known as the Gulf War, involved extensive air campaigns followed by a ground assault that quickly forced Iraqi forces to withdraw from Kuwait. Economic isolation. After the war, the United Nations imposed severe sanctions on Iraq. These sanctions restricted oil exports and limited access to international trade. The Iraqi economy deteriorated significantly in the 1990s, causing widespread hardships for the population. Despite these conditions, Saddam maintained control through political repression, propaganda, and the distribution of limited state resources. Final years of the regime. Throughout the late 1990s and early 2000s, tensions between Iraq and Western governments remained high. Disputes centered on weapons inspections and allegations that Iraq possessed weapons of mass destruction. In 2003, the United States and its allies launched the 2003 invasion of Iraq. Iraqi forces were quickly defeated and Baghdad fell in April 2003. Capture, trial, and execution. Following the collapse of his government, Saddam Hussein went into hiding. In December 2003, he was captured during Operation Red Dawn near his hometown of Tikrit. He was later tried by the Iraqi Special Tribunal on charges created related to crimes committed during his rule. After a lengthy legal process, Saddam Hussein was executed on December 30th, 2006. Historical legacy. The legacy of Saddam Hussein remains deeply contested. Some observers emphasize his role in modernizing Iraq during the 1970s and maintaining strong national institutions. Others focus on the war, repression, and economic collapse associated with his rules. What is clear is that Saddam Hussein profoundly shaped Iraq's modern military history. His decision influenced regional geopolitics, triggered international conflicts, and transformed Iraq's internal political structure. His rise and fall illustrates how concentrated political power can build strong states but also create vulnerabilities when leadership's decisions lead to prolonged war and international isolation.